Welcome to Season 6 of CX in the Wild with the global voice of CX, Dennis Wakabayashi. Embark on a safari into authentic conversations with emerging CX leaders and brands. The adventure starts now.
Okay, so I'm at a Starbucks in a mall in Dubai. I caught up with Vikram Krishna, a gentleman I met at Expo 2020 when we were introduced through customer experience. But what a wonderful guy. One thing you didn't know is I think for the longest time, your podcast that I did was the highest downloaded podcast
What? Seriously?
on my channel. Yes.
Oh.
So recently, it's finally, you held the spot, you held the number one spot for ever until the GPT. Once there were people talking about GPT.
Okay.
So just recently, but for years, over a year, you were the number one downloaded podcast.
Wow.
I just reached out to you just because I loved your story. And what I will say is, it's so hard in the context of Dubai and Expo, because that was my first time in Dubai. Expo was so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And you had me in to see the innovative customer experience that you were doing. And that was, I still tell those stories. Your ability to collaborate and manifest innovative visions within the banking industry at the time, because I've been in the American banks where that kind of innovation doesn't happen. So I've always been impressed with you, and so grateful that you considered talking to me again, because now we were just talking, but I wanted to get it all on podcast. You're doing something even more profound. So walk me through it. So you started telling me, please, the audience has to hear this.
So yeah, a lot has changed since we met last. To start with, I'm not a banker anymore. But what hasn't changed is the fact that I'm continuing to be driven by purpose. And over the last few years, I realized that there's a lot more to who I think I am as a person, and there are a lot more dimensions I'm keen to explore, and one of which was my space on the planet and my contribution to it. And more importantly, over the years, as my roles in the bank that I led expanded, one part that got added to my profile was corporate responsibility, which eventually, grew to sustainability. It was early years, 2013. So in that space, environment and conservation became something that I became very interested in. And the reason was that whichever part of the world I traveled to, I was just horrified to see the rampant destruction of nature. And that changed me as a person. And of course, Manusha, my wife, joined me in that. So we went through that whole recycling, repurposing. We try a bit of growing our own food in Dubai in the sand. And then we do solar cooking. We do the EV and so on. But in this journey, the more you do, the more you feel, the less it is. And I don't know whether you'll echo that, but this is a very different trip. Yeah? So we got quite frustrated as we traveled to different places, and of course, whichever part of the world you go to, pollution is there for you to experience, right? You can't escape it. You could be in New York, or you could be in Chicago, London, Dubai, or Mumbai, or Hong Kong. It's out there, the air that you breathe. Yeah. So Monisha and I decided. The last time when we met was during the Expo. So around that time, what was brewing in the background was us trying to buy a forest and letting it be. So it started off as a personal journey, but in that, people got to know what we were up to, and they started reaching out to us saying that, hey, we'd like to get involved. So I was like, okay, but it's just a forest that I'm buying, and my intention is for the forest to remain a forest forever. So they said, yeah, sounds like a plan. So the question was, how do I get people involved? Because this is not like a real estate, where you cut it into.
It's not an investment
it's nothing,
for a big return.
Yeah, I mean, I just thought that there aren't going to be people like us who just want to let nature be. But I was delighted to find that this was a need that existed, and somehow we happened to be a part of that ecosystem. So then, as more and more people got in touch with me, and I realized that we're onto something, and obviously I took permission from the bank, and the bank was gracious enough to allow me to, pursue this in parallel to what I was doing. So when I met you at that time, I was in the process of setting up what I call a community interest company. So I set up a community interest company out of the UK. We call it Sacred Groves, and that's named after a sacred forest that we happened to visit. And we were guided by a tribal who took us into this forest, and the reverence that he had was our inspiration for the brand, which became the name of the company that we then formed. So the guidance behind the community interest company structure is because we wanted the forest to remain a forest forever, and whatever assets you buy under a community interest company structure, if you call it a conservation asset, then it has to remain a conservation asset till the life of the company. And end of life, if you were to wind the company down, you have to give it to a similar community interest company or give it back to the civic society. So that made sense to me. So both Manish and I then formed a community interest company in 2020 February. So we were a COVID baby, as they say. Yeah?
So are you saying that these aren't investments?
No.
This is when people put money in, it's essentially a gift to the planet and to the communities and to the future generations. I mean, is it that simple?
It's like so we're guided by this concept called intergenerational equity. And the whole concept rallies around the fact that, you need to leave behind better for the next generation. So when we look at our civic society today and our consumerism aspect of it, I'm not a critic of it, but it is what it is, right? Now we are extracting a lot more and we are circling back a lot less. So we are borrowing from the next generation. It's almost, if I go back in the world of banking, it's like an overdraft.
Yeah.
So you're overdrawing resources in this generation from the next, right? So that's something that both Manish and I and my friend of mine, Sudhir, are very clear about, that we need to make sure that in our lifetime, whatever we do, we leave behind better for the next. And whoever the next is, whether it's our children, our families, community, or the case may be. So that's what the forest does essentially. So these are primary forests or old growth secondary forests, which are in a danger of getting destroyed right now. So we identify them and we purchase them. So it's my own money that I put to buy them off right now. Yeah. So this is commercial land, which then becomes a conservation land forever. Yeah? And then the moment it becomes a conservation land, then we apply our Sacred Groves model, which is also quite interesting. So we create a digital twin of the forest, divide that up into clusters, which is basically tokens that have a validity for a 10-year period. They're placed on the blockchain and they're made available for individuals and companies to support for a price of $50. So imagine old growth forest has suddenly become like a virtual Lego block kind of a structure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can purchase these tokens on the app. So you download the Sacred Groves app and you purchase these tokens. And then you get to see exactly where the forest is, some nice, interesting indicators, lots of pictures. We keep on adding. So I sent a drone the other day to our forest in Canada, took some really lovely pictures and videos. So we post that on our platform. And our guardians, so guardians are the folks who are our users essentially. They're now from 51 countries.
So are you saying?
So why?
Are you saying that you've created a way that the digital twin acts as a bridge between the forest and the population of the world, so that you can scale the amount of people who can save forests? But because people have been talking about saving trees forever. But in your model, it takes all of your innovative history of digital and you've essentially made it so, and I just want to get this clear. Anyone who goes online, they pay as much as they want.
Yeah.
But for $50, they can actually, through this digital twin, know that it's going to be handed down from generation to generation, and they can see corresponding photos or live aspects of this forest. So it could also, in another aspect, be like a social community of sacred forest audiences who get together and they could rally around a particular part of the world, or they could rally around one particular forest that's doing really well. They can rally around maybe a forest that's sick and fix that forest. I mean, is all that right?
Yeah, it is. So we want to democratize conservation. So today, if you want to get into conservation, I mean, you can certainly plant trees as an example. And there are a lot of companies all over the world who are doing that successfully, and we compliment them. But our area of work is very specific. So every 5.5 seconds, a soccer field equivalent of primary forest is being destroyed forever. Every 5.5 seconds. So if your podcast is whatever, 20 minutes or 200, 250 acres is gone in that podcast. Right? So that's the scale of the problem. Yeah? And those forests are being cut because a standing forest has no commercial value while it's left standing. So modern economics has no value for a bird in the sky or a deer in the pasture land or a fish in the, in a pond or a frog in a little area. Modern economics has no value for it. So what we are trying to do is it's ambitious, but create a new way where economic value can be generated for forests while they remain standing. Yeah. So the funds that we collect through the sale of these sacred grove clusters, a significant portion of that fund goes into protection of those forests over a period of time. So then when the way the model works is the more people come on board and the more companies come on board, the more funds we collect, the more forests we protect. And then it goes on, it can scale up to any part of the world. So we're in 2 countries already.
I watched a TikTok yesterday where a homeless man was holding a sign, and someone made a TikTok of it, and they raised $200,000 in like 2 weeks for this homeless man. And you're essentially creating like a GoFundMe for forests, but it has a lot of, because it's you, of course, it has a lot of more significant attribution, like the digital twin and being able to see it. So it's not like when I originally said it, I just give my money away and I protect the forest, but not really. I get to give it away and I can watch my plot grow. I can share it with my children.
Yes, you can gift it as well. So our youngest guardian is 3 days old. So when he was born, somebody gifted him a sacred grove. His parents, obviously, a sacred grove cluster. So you can start gifting it. We've got a bit of a community going as well. So these are people who like each other and they want to hang out and they want to exchange ideas. So we call it squads. So it's growing exponentially. But where I see this is for organizations to get involved. And there are 2 broad areas where organizations are getting involved. One is what I call conservation commerce. So essentially the submission is make nature a part of your commercial value proposition, include that in your customer journey, so that when you grow as an organization, nature grows along. As simple as that.
Wow.
Right?
Just stop.
Why should you grow at the cost of nature?
Just stop. Just hold on a minute. For the listeners who don't know, Vikram has been one of the world's leading customer experience people, and suddenly now I'm having all these life-changing moments. When I think of world leading customer experience person, I don't think I really considered it was the actual world, the actual earth experience. But you're right. You could, at a enterprise level scale, I mean, okay, first of all, agriculture companies, all of them, they
Yeah.
certainly,
Yeah.
there's a direct line from an agricultural company that wants to, I'm speaking
Yes.
for you, but like, I assume if I save the forests around my thing, I have more bees and I have more
You benefit.
pollination, whatever. But it never, Vikram, since I saw you last, I have been around the world several times, talking to leaders everywhere. I have seen so much, heard so much, learned so much, and never once has it ever occurred to me or anyone else that the supply chain of customer,
Yeah.
the supply chain of customer,
Yes.
the consumer experience,
Yeah.
there is a preceding chain
Yeah.
of events
Absolutely.
that,
destroys nature.
wow.
Yeah. So include nature, give nature a seat on the board. Patagonia has already done that. So they are the pioneering examples of that. But they've done that for the past 3 to 4 decades. And this needs to become mainstream, in my opinion. And it's not
Because
that
anybody
difficult.
can do it,
It's
the
not
way
that
you're
difficult.
setting it up.
Yeah. So like I'm having this coffee in this mug. I mean, the mug manufacturer, if I go and purchase that mug, would say that, look, each time you buy it from me, a few square feet of forest is protected. So that's how we built our thesis essentially. So the first company that came on board was a Instagram-based art seller. They call PR Nation. Yeah. So they made a commitment that for every square feet of art we sell, a square feet equivalent of nature will get protected with sacred groves. And they put that up on all their propositions, social media posts. They've gone to Europe now. They're selling well. And people like them for the fact that the art is great. It gets delivered on time at the price point that the customer prefers. But also nature is getting protected too. So then you're a part of that journey, right? You're part of that experiential journey that art organization represents. So it's not just art, it can be any organization. Like this place here, I could say that for every guest that we serve, that we have the privilege to serve, a square feet of forest is protected, with sacred groves. And when you bake that in, it's a very different experience for everybody.
Yes. But I've been hearing about saving the trees for my whole life.
Yeah.
And save the forest, rainforest, and it's certainly there's been a lot of great work done.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Oh, it's fantastic work.
But I always envisioned those organizations as nonprofits.
Yes.
Where I put my money in and I rest well at night because I know it goes to a good cause. It goes to this, that, or the other thing of saving the.
Yeah.
But your thing, you're saying, I'm part of a digital community that can actually, almost like, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but almost like I can virtually attend to my own forest.
Yes. Absolutely.
Like I become a virtual gardener for the world.
Absolutely. And how cool is that, right?
It's pretty original.
It is, right? And then it appeals to not everybody, but there's a growing list of people like me all over the world. And we're all saying that, look, we will do what we need to do. But there's a balance that needs to be struck, right? Between what we want to experience and enjoy.
But first of all, you say there's a growing audience.
Yeah.
I'm going to disagree with you there.
Yes.
I don't think that there's a growing audience. I think that the audience has been there for a long time, and it's gigantic.
Yeah.
I think that no one has really figured out how to scale
Yeah.
a unified effort.
Yeah.
So it's like it's. I mean, I hate to make it sound so simple, but it's no more different than Facebook or any social TikTok social network. There's a billion people on TikTok. There's never been a way to unite a million people all within like 2 weeks around an idea until your sort of knowledge, know-how, you've sort of created a way that it's, and it sounds like you're working on it, but it's almost like you're trying to make the environment support go viral.
Yeah, and
Is that right?
viral, and more importantly, everybody I believe wants to have a stake in this because they are all experiencing those wildfires, those erratic climate conditions. In fact, we got caught in a wildfire recently. We were in Vancouver, in Canada, and Canada this year has lost. The last I read, almost 1.8 million hectares, which is 2.5 times the size of the UAE, to wildfires.
Wow.
Yeah. So here we were visiting my daughter, and we'd taken 3 days off from our schedule to take her to this place called Kelowna. It's a wine country and it's very pretty, and we've done all the bookings and stuff. So we're driving towards it, and then I saw burned fields around me. So we got off the car, and Manisha and I wanted to take a few videos because we hadn't really seen anything like this before. We took a few videos, and then the smell was getting a little bit more intense than we imagined. And earlier we thought that it was probably got burnt like a couple of weeks back. So we go back to the car, and my daughter tells me that Google alert, there's a forest fire ahead. She said, "What forest fire? We can't see anything." And there was just this little speck of a cloud in the horizon. So we spent about 10 minutes processing this information about forest fire ahead. We were making a few calls, etc. So our attention really wasn't in the front. So 10 minutes later, my daughter essentially takes an executive call that we don't move ahead and we turn back. So when we decide to move on from that area, in front of me is the forest fire, which is at least a few thousand times the size of what I saw 10 minutes back. It is on us. So I sped like a madman, turned around, and in my rearview mirror, there was fire all around us. And 50 people lost their lives that day. 150,000 people had to be evacuated. It was all over the world's press. So it's not me alone now. Everybody is experiencing this. Yeah. And they are also getting a bit kind of frustrated that why is it that year on year, it's only getting worse. It's not getting any better. Companies are making these glorious promises. So are politicians. Yeah. But why is it not getting any better?
That's been my whole thing.
Yeah. So when it is not getting any better, in fact, unfortunately, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's going to get only worse from here. So when they say that, when they realize it's not going to get any better, they are looking at companies, institutions, leaders to play a more active role. And if organizations come by and say that, hey, we will make sure that you experience the product or service that you love, but in that process, we will also conserve nature, and it won't come to you with any additional effort. I think we spoke about that customer effort score the last time, right? So the customer says, I don't want to make any effort, but please make it happen. It's almost hygiene. And guess what? I don't believe I need to pay any more. In the money that I'm paying you, please put it all together and give it to me and package it to me just the way this plastic has come into my life. And I didn't want it. I was just having a cup of coffee, but you have a plastic straw here. Yeah. So similarly, make conservation happen in my daily experience, just the way plastic has. So that's what consumers are now demanding. Regulators are expecting. And progressive organizations need to wake up and, no pun intended, smell the coffee and get on with it and do something substantial in a transparent and scalable way. So that's where people like us, Sacred Groves, comes in to say that, look, let's do something together and make it better.
Certainly a noble cause. If there's anyone who I believe has at least the foundation of experiences with economics, customer journeys, supply chain, human experiences now. I would think you're one of the leading voices.
Okay.
Fast forward, what happens when you save all the forests and we need that land to build some buildings?
So very interesting question. So our aspiration is at least 1 million hectares by 2030 as an organization. It's not just about protecting forests in the long run. It's also about making the entire human experience a lot more efficient. Let me give you an example. We have a phone here in front of us, which is yours, right? There are more mobile phones in the landfill than humans on the planet right now. And 15 billion of them are heading to the landfill in the next 3 years, right? Why do I say that? Is because electronic waste alone that's going into landfill, if we were to just recycle it, we won't need to mine anymore.
Right.
If we don't need to mine anymore, then we don't need more land to mine, right? And if we don't need more land to mine, then forests don't get destroyed.
I see.
Yeah. Or if you look at coffee as a supply chain.
Well, it's like, I'm going to jump in here.
Yeah.
One of the eye-opening things that I realized is I was listening to someone talk about mining. I think it was like copper. Let's just say it was copper.
Yeah.
And they were saying, we've almost exhausted the copper mines.
Correct.
And what are we going to do when we don't have the copper mines and we're all out of copper?
Yeah.
And somebody else said, we're not out of copper. It's all still here on the planet.
Exactly.
Like, it didn't go anywhere.
It's in your cupboard right now.
Yeah.
Because you bought those phones, you bought all those things that you definitely need in life. It's in your house. And you just left it there. And you're waiting to mine more copper.
Yeah.
Right? So that's just one story, right? If you look at food supply chain, 30% of the food that we produce as humanity gets wasted. Yeah. Another 30% goes towards feeding animals that we eat. Yeah. And then the balance 1/3 is the fruits and vegetables that come into our homes. You can already see the inefficiencies that they are, right? So when you look at any of these lines of supply, each one of them have got such sharp fault lines.
I thought this was going to be an inspiring conversation to come talk to you. I don't know if I'm ready to change, but it's all making a lot of sense.
There's this really interesting study called Project Drawdown, and they've been doing that now for several decades. Their conclusion is that we need, what is the latest number? 1.65 or 1.7 Earths to take care of our current lifestyle.
Wow.
Yeah? So, which is quite shabby, right? The point is, if we are smart enough, then we'll continue living, and experiencing life the way we are, but we'll do it a lot more efficiently, is my point.
And so what I hear you say, I mean, okay, it's everybody's responsibility, or not well, yes, but it's everybody's opportunity. There are a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
You have Sacred Forest. It's a new idea. It helps, I think, create a more transparent, one-to-one, traceable relationship between each person. And it's built with this modern scaling quality to it.
Yeah.
People can get involved.
Yeah. And it also creates desirability as well. So currently, if you look at protection of forest and environment, it's a pity business. It's a charity business. We don't need anybody's charity. Earth is everyone's responsibility, right? So if you're an organization, you're a brand, you're selling on desire, include conservation in your desire model, become more desirable, grow your business, make your shareholders happier, but take nature along.
I'm sure there's a lot of logistics in the middle of it. So, all right, when I post this podcast, I'm gonna of course put links to all your things. How big is it now? Because you were giving birth to this 2020, so it's just a few years
So we
in.
so we launched our platform in September 2021,
Okay.
and now we have 3 forests, 2 in the UK, 1 in Canada. The 2 forests in UK are in Wales. They're old growth forests, oak woodlands actually, and you can go on Google Earth and see them. They're in great shape, thankfully. And the one in Canada is in Nova Scotia. It's a UNESCO biosphere, and it connects a freshwater lake to the North Atlantic Ocean with bird sanctuaries all around. So we are delighted and privileged to protect it. They're both doing well. All 3 of them are doing well.
And is there a place at your website for individuals, but also is there a place at your website where like executives from major brands can tap into more information?
So they're all reaching out to me, and then we're coming up with custom solutions for them. Because what I want to do is, given the customer experience background that I have, I want to make sure that I integrate in the customer journey of the organization, so that their own effort is marginalized, and their whole proposition evolves further. It's not about creating new propositions. It's about taking forward what you have, but adding that element of conservation into it, making it seamless, effortless, cost effective, and also proving the fact that you can grow your business successfully. If you do that, then conservation will benefit. So that's our journey. So September is when we launched. We got guardians from 51 countries already. Many companies are getting involved. We make some announcements shortly. In fact, tomorrow we're making an announcement about Microsoft. So we are part of their program, which is entrepreneurship for impact. 37 companies globally have been selected for that. So we'll work with them for about a year, and they believe we can scale up quite significantly. So we're looking forward to their expertise when it comes to technology.
So over the next year, you're going to have a lot of good case studies as well.
Yes.
Well, I wish you the best of luck on this adventure. I'm probably going to have to. I definitely am going to get at least put my $50 in to get some aspect of this. I guess it would be a good content story too if I went through the process to see what it was like. Do you have it'd be really interesting is because I'm doing this with some other brands, but brands were trying to, so first of all, brands who have a customer experience and they're trying to change it have an education problem for the customer because there's so much that goes into it. So I've been following, and after we get done talking about your thing, I can, after this podcast recording, I can talk to you about, but it seems like I'd love to do a story where we follow a brand that, because there's no brand in the world that won't agree with this, but watches them take it into their customer experiences and what happens. I think it'd be very curious to see how that happens.
Absolutely. So a brand that includes conservation in their acquisition experience, in their activation experience, in their usage journey, retention and loyalty, that'll be pioneering.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I'm glad you made time for me in Dubai. It's always great talking with you.
Thank you.
Hopefully, today's exploration with CX in the Wild has unearthed fresh CX insights for you. Be sure to explore previous episodes or share this podcast to invite others on our safari. Have a great suggestion or want to be on the show? Reach out to Dennis on LinkedIn. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the wild world of CX.